The story kicks off with a rather dramatic scene. We see a young lady seated in a car, her head spinning from an unknown cause. The driver, his eyebrows raised, notices her unusual behavior, suggesting that she might have indulged in a bit too much to drink. In response, she mumbles something about feeling dizzy. Her thoughts whirl inside her head as she battles to stay awake, but her eyelids betray her, drooping gradually. She finally gives in, slumping against the car's interior, and this doesn't escape the driver's attention. He smirks, sensing an opportunity. With a sudden ear-piercing screech, the car grinds to a halt, surrounded by the eerie desolation of an abandoned area. Another figure materializes, joining the driver, and they seem to have sinister intentions toward the unconscious girl. Suddenly, she blinks her eyes open, her voice shaky as she questions their actions. The new arrival reassures her that they are just about to wake her up, wearing a sly smile. The driver, his tone laced with menace, advises her to stay still, promising to give her a good time. She, however, sternly warns them to reconsider their choices. They mock her, suggesting that girls like her tend to scream the loudest. But just as the man starts to unzip his pants, she strikes with her foot, knocking him to the ground. As she opens her eyes, she coolly remarks that she did try to warn them. In that very moment, the flashing lights of police cars pierce through the darkness, and the police arrive on the scene. A frantic lieutenant calls out her name, rushing to her side, horrified by the bloodstains on her body. He sighs deeply, seemingly familiar with her penchant for getting into such situations. His fellow officers gather around, curious about the mysterious woman, and one of them identifies her as Sergeant Hana Lee. She's a renowned counterterrorism agent, plucked from a special missions unit by a private military company. Her track record boasts of never failing a mission, making the bounty on her head astronomical. They also mention her twin brother's involvement in the intelligence service, adding an intriguing layer to her already legendary status. One cop wonders aloud about the sibling duo's dual roles in a private military company and intelligence service, pondering why she's in Korea and if she might join their team. Meanwhile, the lieutenant scolds Hana, reminding her of his strict orders not to kill anyone. Unfazed, she maintains that she didn't kill anyone, though he's skeptical, given the state she left her assailants in. She explains that she was intoxicated and had to act in self-defense, albeit somewhat excessively. She hands over crucial evidence, including a burner phone used for recording and the knife wielded by the attackers. She emphasizes the recording from the crime scene, asserting that their actions amounted to attempted murder and robbery. She adds that considering the heinous acts they subjected her to, they could face charges of sexual assault and intimidation as well. Hana stares at the lieutenant and demands his shirt, contrasting how clean it is with her own blood-soaked attire. Reluctantly, he hands over his shirt as they arrest the assailants. He expresses gratitude for her role in apprehending them, acknowledging that without her, they might have escaped justice once more. However, Hana, ever the pragmatist, prefers cash over words as her compensation. She hints at the lieutenant's promising future, given these arrests, and he eventually agrees to treat her once he receives his next paycheck. As they head towards the police car, she pleads with him to keep her involvement in the incident a secret because no one should know. Curious, the lieutenant inquires about Hana's brother, Dui. She replies that he's been on a whirlwind tour, listing off several places he's visited over the past 2 months. She mentions that he mentioned going to Cambodia just last week. The lieutenant remarks on her brother's quick transition to real missions following his service with the underwater demolition team. She lauds her brother's intelligence, especially in the midst of intense assignments with the overseas narcotics investigation team. Suddenly, Hana's phone rings with a Cambodian number, and she wonders if it could be her brother. She answers, and the caller identifies themselves as a representative of the National Security and Intelligence Service. A chill runs down Hana's spine even before she hears the caller's voice. The caller delivers the devastating news that her brother, Dui, did not survive his last mission. The police lieutenant watches Hana, wondering when she'll finish her phone call. He notices her anger and hears her shouting at the person on the other end. Concerned, he walks over, realizing that Hana is really upset. She firmly believes the caller is lying and adamantly insists that there's no way something bad could have happened to her brother. Suddenly, Hana starts choking, and she collapses to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. The pain she feels is so overwhelming, it's like a mix of being physically hurt and blinded, and it all feels like a terrible nightmare. Back at home, Hana recalls a memory from her childhood with her brother. He had promised to protect her from anyone who might hurt her when he grew up. She jumps up from her bed, looking at a photo of them together, and declares that her brother is the reason she returned to Korea. All of a sudden, she hears a sound and starts searching for its source. After some searching, she finds a ringing phone. Hopeful that it might be her brother, she answers the call and realizes it is indeed him. She urgently asks him where he is and what's happening, but the signal is so weak that she can barely hear his voice. Because the connection is so bad, she pleads with him to just give her his coordinates. He utters words that sound like a warning about someone called Renti and the threat of being killed. Hana insists on taking action and instructs him not to hang up, but to remain silent so she can track his location. She forces herself to calm down, reminding herself that the agency said he was dead, yet he's still alive. She realizes he must have used an untraceable device to call her, meaning he's in serious trouble. She knows she needs to get to Cambodia as soon as possible, or else she might actually lose her brother. In a different scene, on the island of Sicily, Italy, a young man emerges from a pool, running his hands through his wet hair. This man is introduced as Giulio Parenti, the leader of the Sicilian Mafia, also known as the Capo. He receives news of something happening in Cambodia. When he asks who was in charge, he's told it was Niccolò and that Niccolò was shot and killed at the scene. Without hesitation, Giulio orders his men to prepare everything because they're leaving. He smirks, convinced that someone is waiting for him. In the next scene, a man named Tai-jin calls Hana, his voice trembling with sorrow as he apologizes for not doing a better job protecting Dui. Hana, her voice stern, tells Tai-jin to stop crying and answer her question. She then asks him a crucial question: where is her brother's body? Tai-jin's response is shaky as he explains they couldn't find Dui's body due to a bomb explosion. He speculates that Dui might have taken something that belonged to the mafia, and they might have tried to eliminate him using a suicide bomber. Hana wastes no time and instructs Tai-jin to meet her at the main exit of Phnom Penh Airport by 9:20 a.m. local time. This surprises Tai-jin, and he asks if she's planning to go there. Hana's determined reply is that since they never found the body, she's going to search for her brother as if he's still alive. On the bustling streets of Phnom Penh, Cambodia, Hana waits anxiously after arriving in the city, hoping to meet Tai-jin. He finally arrives and guides her to a location, revealing that he has arranged for a tuk-tuk. Tai-jin Choi, a member of the National Security and Intelligence Service, was Dui's closest colleague. Hana inquires about his car, but Tai-jin explains that he doesn't have it today because he's off duty. Suspicion creeps into Hana's mind as she questions why he stopped by his office. He stammers, scratching his neck, and mumbles something about having something urgent to handle. Anxious to get moving, he suggests they leave because the heat is becoming unbearable, but Hana senses something amiss in his behavior. As they ride in the tuk-tuk, Hana hands Tai-jin a phone, informing him that she needs the coordinates for the last place he saw her brother. Nervous and sweating, Tai-jin stammers as he takes the phone and mentions it was 75 kilometers north of their current location, towards Siem Reap, in an ordinary village. Tai-jin then voices his concern, advising Hana not to get involved like this, as it could lead to complications if their colleagues at the intelligence service find out. However, Hana ignores his caution and begins a barrage of questions about Dui, his last mission, who he had been in contact with, the type of drugs he carried, the clothes and shoes he wore when the bomb went off, and even the mode of transportation he used. Hana makes it clear that Tai-jin will provide all the details, or she'll show him just how complicated things can get. Tai-jin reluctantly agrees, declaring that this will be the last time he does something like this. They are now in Dui's apartment, both Hana and Tai-jin sifting through the contents of the fridge. Hana's memories of the neat and orderly apartment flood back to her. The meticulously arranged drinks are just like her brother, a perfectionist in every way. But no matter how much she thinks about it, his death doesn't fit his personality at all. Tai-jin begins to explain their recent investigations. He and Dui have been tracking a new drug called K947A, with a focus on tracing its distribution by the Italian mafia. He reveals that this drug is tricky because it can easily be disguised as a medical substance, unlike most hallucinogens. But then, he mentions that he lost contact with Dui just before they were supposed to meet at the rendezvous point for the drugs. When he finally caught up to Dui, he demanded an explanation, only to discover that Dui had decided to go solo. The revelation that Dui had a connection with the mafia leaves Tai-jin baffled. Listening to Tai-jin's story, Hana feels a twinge of doubt. She can't be entirely sure if she should trust him, especially given his earlier behavior and responses. There's a lingering suspicion that he might have already informed his superiors about her presence. For the time being, she decides to maintain a cautious distance from him and extract as much information about her brother as possible. She knows she has to be exceptionally careful now, considering that even her brother's home might have been compromised. With great deliberation, she turns on the television, cranking up the volume to its maximum setting. This is a tactic to thwart any potential eavesdropping devices that might have been planted in the apartment. Hana observes that her brother detests disorder to the point of obsession, and whoever has been here clearly knows that. However, they haven't quite gotten all the details right, such as the alignment of the drink labels and the arrangement of clothes hangers. Determined to uncover any clues her brother might have left behind, Hana goes into his room. There, she recognizes a hidden projector that he had once shown her. It cleverly masquerades as a regular lamp. As she wonders when he had set up this elaborate contraption, she finds herself facing a reluctant decision. She has to reach out to someone she had never planned on contacting again. Things are indeed getting interesting and intense. Hana picks up her phone and dials a familiar number. The voice on the other end answers with a cheerful greeting, but she remains silent. After a brief pause, he playfully asks if she's gotten drunk and dialed the wrong number, just like she used to do with an old lover. She responds briefly, asking about his well-being, with no pleasantries exchanged. It's revealed that his name is Logan. He questions her presence in Cambodia, surprised by her sudden appearance. She, in turn, expresses suspicion, suggesting he might be an ex-lover or a stalker. Logan, with a mischievous grin, admits he's missed her and jokingly hints at his love for keeping an eye on her. Hana eventually discloses that she needs his assistance, promising to provide information about a case she's currently working on in return. She tantalizingly hints that he'll be pleased with what he sees. Logan's curiosity increases as he inquires about the nature of the case, to which she responds that it involves the mafia, specifically Giulio Parenti of the Sicilian Mafia. Without hesitation, Logan accepts her request and assures her he'll join her soon, asking if there's anything else she needs. She requests her old stock of weapons. In the next scene, we're introduced to Valentine's Day, a private military company specializing in high-risk missions. However, there's nothing romantic about their approach. When Valentine's Day targets their enemies, it only means one thing: death. Now, in the Valentine's Day safe house in Cambodia, Hana screeches to a stop on her bike. Her former colleague rushes to greet her with a tight hug, inquiring if her arrival signifies her return to their ranks. She dismisses the idea, explaining that she simply requires assistance and inquires about Logan. Her colleague, visibly disappointed, informs her that Logan is at the office and speculates about his sudden appearance. Logan Valentine, the head of Valentine's Day, emerges. Hana presents a recording obtained from her brother's room, revealing high-profile criminals, the FBI, the CIA, and the Mafia. It's clear that Giulio Parenti played a role in her twin brother's disappearance, though officially, he's declared dead during a mission. Hana believes her brother was gathering information on the Russian and Italian mobs. Logan questions her certainty regarding Parenti's involvement. He finds Parenti's alleged actions unusual, as he's known for having people killed rather than kidnapped due to his dislike of wasting time. During their investigation, Hana reveals that Smith and Petrov have developed close ties to Parenti since a terrorist attack in Chicago a year ago. As they study the projector footage, Logan recognizes a client named Mr. Kong. When questioned about Mr. Kong, Logan hints that he's a client with confidential details. They deduce that Mujin Kong is a rising tycoon, and Parenti would not typically engage in petty drug deals. If the information was fabricated, someone might have impersonated Parenti. Logan suggests that this deceit is common among drug dealers, but wonders why Hana's country's intelligence service didn't consider it initially. He suggests it may have been intentional. A man enters, apologizing for the interruption and referring to the intelligence they received that morning. He reveals that Giulio Parenti's goods were stolen by Mesa, a Cambodian criminal organization. Hana, intrigued in questioning the man's identity, is introduced to him as Yeon Song-yu. Curiosity piqued, Hana gently shakes Yeon Song and earns a warm smile in response. He reveals his Korean descent and willingly offers to assist her during her stay in Cambodia, finding pleasure in encountering a fellow Korean in this foreign land. Back at the house, Tae-jin anxiously searches for Hana, worried about her safety. Just as his concern peaks, she suddenly walks in, and he immediately scolds her for going out alone, emphasizing the dangers of the area. They enter the house, where she grabs a bottle of water, drinks it hastily, and slams the empty bottle onto the table. Concerned for her well-being, Tae-jin suggests accompanying her if she needs to go anywhere, fearing for her safety if she continues to wander alone. Hana then leans against the table, her demeanor tense, and admits there's much she doesn't understand about her brother's case and about Tae-jin himself, despite their long acquaintance. With determination in her eyes, she pulls out a gun, cocks it, and points it at Tae-jin, urging him to make the right choice. She questions the information he provided, noting significant gaps, especially in the surveillance video. She inquires about Dae's unusual behavior in the dashcam footage, highlighting how he entered the building where the mobsters were and was later dragged out before the bomb detonated. She raises doubts about why the perpetrators would showcase her brother's face on camera if their intent was to kill him, suggesting that it might have been staged. She further reveals that the intelligence service declared Dae dead based solely on the video, which isn't even the original version but rather an edited one. Hana turns her attention back to Tae-jin, her gaze unwavering, and demands to know if he has an explanation. Tae-jin stammers as he admits that they found a body with a damaged suicide vest, making it impossible to conduct an autopsy. He explains that they identified the body as her brother's due to the presence of his dog tag. Keeping the gun trained on Tae-jin, Hana declares that, from this moment forward, he's an accomplice to the case. She instructs him to cease his investigation into her, and in return, she'll pretend to believe his lies. She then orders him to inform his superiors that she hasn't left Dae's apartment since yesterday. Tae-jin reluctantly agrees, and Hana nods while signaling her partner Yeon-song-yu to intervene. Yeon-song swiftly incapacitates Tae-jin, remarking, "What a heartbreaking betrayal." Hana retorts that it's still too early to label it a betrayal and that they'll have to wait and see how the story unfolds. In the next scene, we see Hana riding a bike, and Yeon-song inquires if she's planning to leave. She reveals that Logan provided her with the coordinates to the safe house and suggested that the Cambodian crime syndicate might target it. Yeon-song acknowledges the strategic importance of the location and advises her to maintain a low profile until receiving further instructions, as Parenti is likely to make a move due to items stolen from him. Determined to get ahead of their adversaries, Hana resolves to sneak into the safe house. Yeon-song expresses his interest in her romantic life, asking if she's seeing anyone. She confirms that she is, and he playfully concedes, promising to step back. He bids her farewell and wishes for her safe return. As she speeds away, Yeon-song reflects to himself, finding the situation quite intriguing and lamenting, "What a shame." Hana has finally reached the Valentine's Day safe house. She takes a moment to soak in her surroundings, reflecting on the history of this place. It's a hub of preparation for some imminent operation, with weapons neatly arranged and ready for action. Her mind swirls with thoughts of what her brother has gotten her into, and she clings to the hope that he'll send her some sign of his continued existence. Her reflections are interrupted by a call from Logan, checking on her status. She reassures him that everything seems quiet on her end, almost eerily quiet. Then, a question that's been nagging at her surfaces: is Yeon-song-yu really a part of Valentine's Day? She noticed he wasn't wearing their distinctive badge. To this, Logan remains silent, offering no clear answer but mentioning a challenge posed by someone named Lou. Hana, caught off guard, asks about Lou, a name she's never heard before. Her nerves are rattled as Lou suddenly appears, prompting her to reach for her gun. With her weapon trained on him, Lou introduces himself as Edward Liu from the U.S. Logan, still on the call, reminds her of his earlier warning about Lou's presence, and she abruptly ends the call. Lou's unexpected appearance leaves Hana puzzled, and she demands an explanation. He playfully suggests he thought she might be bored, but when she presses further, he admits to having personal business in Cambodia and a score to settle with Mesa. Mesa, he reveals, is the syndicate he's investigating, one of the drug cartels tightly gripping Cambodia. They not only stole from Parenti but also committed a murder link to the Sicilian mafia. Hana, bewildered by Yeon-song's involvement, seeks reassurance that Lou won't interfere with her mission. He assures her that he won't be a hindrance and suggests they stick to the original plan. She takes care of Giulio Parenti while he handles Mesa. However, Hana's suspicion lingers. She suddenly grabs Lou's shirt, insisting that he's not a Valentine's Day agent. He chuckles and clarifies that he never claimed to be an agent. He simply offered to assist her during her time in Cambodia. Just as the tension starts to simmer down, Hana's phone rings again, this time with Logan on the line. He informs her that Mesa is on the move and will reach the designated coordinates in 3 hours. He paints a daunting picture, describing a convoy of 40 heavily armed individuals traveling in a trailer, 2 shipping containers, and 6 trucks. Parenti has caught wind of their movements and is pursuing them, leaving Hana with a daunting question: can she handle this formidable challenge? About an hour later, we see Hana plotting with Yeon-song on how to carry out the operation. She mentions her plan to sneak into the trailer and target the tires of the truck in front of it. He inquires whether she intends to hold up the entire group until Giulio Parenti arrives, to which she replies with a firm negative. Hana then proceeds to outline the steps she intends to take. Firstly, she explains that she will detonate the landmine when Mesa appears. Secondly, she would seize the opportunity to sneak into the trailer amid the ensuing chaos. Lastly, she would await Giulio Parenti's arrival. Furthermore, she expresses her intention to opt for a minimal force approach, aiming to create just enough distraction to gain access to the trailer. After her detailed explanation, Yeon-song advises her to stay safe since he's starting to develop stronger feelings for her than he had anticipated. He urges her to begin her preparations. While tracking their targets, Yeon-song informs her that Parenti is among them. Following a brief countdown, they executed the initial step of their plan but noticed signs of life inside the trailer. Swiftly, Hana begins scaling the trailer's exterior to gain entry. She leaps inside and opens fire, narrowly avoiding being overpowered by one of the men, thanks to Yeon-song's timely intervention. She expresses her gratitude to him for handling that particular threat. While they await their second target, Yeon-song provides an update, revealing that the target is moving at high speed and a significant collision is expected. Suddenly, Hana overhears a man talking on the phone. He seems not to desire Parenti's merchandise, expressing regret that he had ever entered into a contract. Just as she eavesdropped, a violent collision occurs, causing the trailer to shake and Hana to lose her balance. Yeon-song repeatedly calls her name, concerned about her well-being. Eventually, she manages to open her eyes, trembling as she removes the earpiece from her ear and readies her firearm. Just then, a man approaches the trailer's door, and Hana aims her gun at him, issuing a stern warning. Instead of retreating, the man reaches for her weapon, pressing it against his own forehead and daring her to pull the trigger. He claims that he had been eagerly awaiting death, then in a sudden and brutal move, he strikes Hana, causing her to lose consciousness. He then lifts her with sinister intent, stating his intention to take her with them to determine if she has any utility. In the next scene, Hana awakens with a sudden realization that her hands are tightly bound. Panic surges through her, and she immediately starts to struggle against her restraints. The man who had picked her up notices her frantic movements and remarks, "It appears you have quite the quick reflexes." She looks up, her eyes widening as she recognizes the face before her. It's none other than Giulio Parenti. With a mixture of fear and curiosity, Giulio inquires about her identity and whether she had been waiting for him inside the trailer. Hana confirms this, but before she answers his question about why, she slyly suggests that he should remove his clothes. She adds that she can't possibly leave the bathroom in her current disordered state, given how filthy she looks. Angrily, he grasps her chin, demanding to know if she's attempting to flirt with him and questioning whether she expects to leave this place alive. Unbothered, Hana responds, assuring him that he'll find himself in need of her assistance sooner than he thinks. In response to her daring words, Giulio thrusts his fingers into her mouth, warning her that if that's what she desires, she better get accustomed to such situations. He presses his body closer, invading her personal space. Suddenly, another man barges in, demanding to know what Giulio is up to and why he hasn't executed his plans to end her life yet. Giulio attempts to explain, claiming that he intended to eliminate her because she had admitted to coming to end his life, but she kept making advances towards him, leading to their current situation. The other man exclaims in disbelief but quickly changes his tone when he notices Giulio's piercing gaze. Meanwhile, Hana, still uncertain about the conversation conducted mostly in Italian, senses that something unusual is unfolding. Seizing an opportune moment during their discussion, Hana manages to discreetly cut the rope that binds her. The other man takes charge, drawing a gun from his pocket and vowing to complete the job swiftly. As he approaches Hana, she swiftly overpowers him and wrests the gun from his grasp. She points it at him. The rope still coiled around his neck and warns Giulio not to come any closer. She makes it clear that her determination brought her here to confront him, and nothing will deter her from her mission. Giulio, in a gesture of surrender, raises his hands and inquires about her demands. Hana responds, revealing that she needs his assistance to track down the imposter who has been impersonating him. She tightens the rope slightly, prompting the man to scream in pain. Giulio realizes that he has no choice but to cooperate and asks her what she wants from him. Hana's response is resolute. She wants his help, and in return, she promises to bring the imposter to justice. Meanwhile, the police arrive at the scene of the collision, and one of them approaches Yen Song. He inquires about what they should do with the bodies discovered at the scene. Yen Song discreetly slips some money to the officer and instructs him to take care of the bodies as he deems necessary. He adds that the individuals involved are nothing but a group of criminals, emphasizing that the police can take full credit for apprehending them. Apparently, Parenti and his gang have absconded with the weapons box and the trailer containing the cocaine. The final task on Yen Song's agenda is to wipe the phone of one of the deceased individuals. As he bends down to perform this task, Tai-jin suddenly appears on the scene. Yen Song acknowledges that he hasn't seen Tai-jin since Hana gave him that thrashing. Then, he calmly produces a gun and questions Tai-jin about why he didn't disclose earlier that Hana and Dui are twins. Tai-jin responds by saying he didn't believe it was important information. Yen Song, while cocking the gun at aiming it, asserts that he requires information about Hana Lee. In defense, Tai-jin states that Sergeant Hana is now leading an ordinary life as a civilian, with Dui being her sole remaining family member. He explains that this is why she can't abandon him and has come all this way. However, Yen Song says that it's his decision to make. While still aiming the gun at Tai-jin, Yen Song instructs him to start being more useful if he wants to avoid dire consequences. As he lowers his weapon and begins to walk away, Tai-jin poses a question, "Are you interested in Hana?" Yen Song responds by saying the sergeant is indeed an enticing woman, which is why he's contemplating adjusting his plans. Meanwhile, back at the location where Giulio Parenti took Hana, he queries her once more about her intentions to apprehend the individual impersonating him. He comments that it may be too late for that now, considering that the individuals from Mesa were eliminated by a sniper at the scene. Hana expresses her frustration, lamenting that she never had the opportunity to interrogate them as she had hoped. She goes on to reveal that her brother has been tracking the imposter, and by joining forces, they can uncover the mastermind behind all of this. She discloses that there's a rumor circulating that Giulio ordered a hit on a Korean intelligence service agent, coincidentally her brother. Taken aback, Giulio inquires if that would mean her brother is already deceased. Hana firmly asserts that her brother is still alive, which is precisely why she sought out Giulio, to ensure he wasn't responsible for her brother's death. Inwardly, she recognizes the importance of gaining Giulio's trust, understanding that her mission's success hinges on this. To prove his goodwill, Parenti swiftly unbuttons his shirt and offers it to her. He then instructs one of his associates, Romano, to fetch a glass of wine for Hana in exchange for releasing Lorenzo. While Hana is understandably wary of trusting them enough to consume the drink, Giulio manages to persuade her, insisting that her thirst must be quenched. Despite her parched throat, she can't shake the suspicion that they may have spiked the drink, even though she's uncertain whether it's poisoned or drugged. Nevertheless, she decides to take the risk, kicking Lorenzo aside and snatching the glass from Romano. She gazes at Giulio as she gulps down the drink. Almost immediately, dizziness overcomes her, and she staggers before collapsing to the ground. But as it turns out, they had already arranged for a doctor to attend to her. Giulio issues orders for her comprehensive medical treatment, leaving no aspect of her care to chance. In the following scene, Hana is experiencing a terrible nightmare in which she witnesses someone making a chilling promise of revenge against her. Shortly afterward, she jerks away, startled by the vividness of her nightmare. Confused about her surroundings, she realizes someone has tended her wounds. It dawns on her that she must have been given sleeping pills. "What an awful nightmare," she exclaims, making it clear that it's a memory she'd rather erase from her mind. Reflecting on the disturbing dream, Hana recalls her time as a Valentine's Day agent when a man ended up in prison because of her actions. During the 7 months he spent behind bars, his enemies hunted down and brutally murdered every member of his family. He had hurled curses at Hana, vowing to seek revenge. Initially, she dismissed his threats with a contemptuous snort, but as time passed, an uneasy feeling crept over her. When the situation escalated, she found herself checking on her brother daily to ensure his safety. Later, she heard that the man had been killed in some revenge scheme, and for the first time, she felt relief upon hearing about someone's death. It was a harrowing experience that shattered her sense of human dignity, a moment of disillusionment she never wished to relive. Hence, the nightmare she just endured. Determined to protect her brother at all costs, Hana resolves to stay focused. However, her immediate concern is finding something to eat. Only then can she devise a new plan to convince Parenti. As she contemplates the fate of her clothes, she rises from the bed. Reflecting on herself, she admits that she knew Parenti would be a tough adversary, but she never anticipated his level of instability. She has no clue why he's keeping her alive, as it doesn't appear he will accept her offer anytime soon. As she opens the door, she unexpectedly collides with Lorenzo, the man she had tied up earlier. She offers an apology for their prior encounter, hoping to establish some rapport with him in the hopes of extracting information about Parenti. However, Lorenzo sternly instructs her to return to her room and warns against any funny business. Hana reassures him that she intends to be a model hostage, pleading for him to bring her something to eat, as she's famished and hasn't eaten all day. After some reluctance and contemplation, Lorenzo reveals that their food supplies are little and reluctantly allows Hana to follow him. As he turns, he discreetly connects a microphone to Giulio, enabling him to eavesdrop on their conversation. Curious about her identity, Lorenzo questions if she might be an assassin or a North Korean spy. Hana denies both assumptions, revealing her past as a member of the South Korean Special Forces but admitting that she's now just a bakisu, Korean slang for an unemployed person. Meanwhile, Giulio, on the other end, continues to listen to their conversation while casually lighting a cigarette. As they discuss her identity, heavy rain begins to pour, and several cars arrive on the scene.